So again, it's going to get the ID from the parameter, connect to MySQL. And one of the things I'm going to show you is that this can be a lot easier. Database stuff. This is a lot to do every time you want to connect to a database. So I actually created a database class that actually streamlines all this and makes it as simple as something like PHP. Okay, so next to the database, we have a query we're going to execute. Very straightforward. It's just going to get the file size, the file name, and the bytes from our documents based on the file ID that we pass in. It will execute it and checks to see if there's a row return, results set.next. If so, it gets the file size and the file name. Result set.getInt1 is the file size, and getString2 is the name. Then it creates something called a input stream, which again is a stream of bytes. Third argument, that's a blob, so we get a stream of bytes from it. And we check to see if there's anything there. If it's null, we're really done. Now we have to set the content type out, and you can actually just say application text. It doesn't really matter. The header, you have to tell it that you're going to send a file as an attachment and what the file name is. Then you get an output stream. So this is the response back to the browser. So here we got the input stream, which is from the database, and we've got an output stream, which is back to the browser. And then all you do is you use a while loop that says, while you're able to get a byte from the input stream or the blob column in the MySQL database, go ahead and write it out to the browser. Get byte. It's like, get a byte, write a byte. Get a byte, write a byte. It's literally byte for byte from the blob in MySQL back to the browser. Byte for byte. And that's it. And it sends it. And this content disposition tells it that tells the browser it's getting an attachment and what that attachment name is. So that it knows it's getting a file, and that's when you get that pop-up. That's why you get that pop-up right here. If I click on this, it says, what do you want to open it with? Okay, well, I can just open it with OpenOffice Writer again. That's fine. And I'll open that C++ program in Office. And that's probably okay. Then it opens it up. Right here. The file I uploaded is there. So essentially, that's what's involved in file upload and download. And again, deleting files is real easy. You just click the X, and all that does is deletes the row. That's a standard delete from table. That's really simple. What's complicated and kind of running out of time now, but I think I may show you one more thing. Well, let's see. Next week we're going to do the PHP examples, and we actually have some time because we already did the Java upload and download this week. I should just move that there. And next week we'll look at how to do it in PHP. And one of the things you're going to see is that it's so much easier in PHP. And one of the reasons it's so much easier in PHP is because PHP makes a lot of assumptions for you. PHP stands for Personal Home Page, and it makes a ton of assumptions for you. Java is more of a general purpose language. And by the way, Java is the number one, it's general purpose language. It's literally used everywhere. Blu-ray devices, it's 100% of all Blu-rays use Java. The vast majority of cell phones use Java. And lots of other things use Java. So Java is more of a lower level language than PHP. It doesn't make nearly as many assumptions. However, you can either download or write your own what we call base classes that will streamline Java for web stuff and make it as short and as simple as PHP. And I think that's one of the things I'll show you next week when we look at the PHP and you're like, well, that's so much easier. Yeah, okay, but let's see how much simpler Java is once we add a very simple base class. And the one I'm going to use particularly is going to be a database base class that is written to mimic PHP's database capabilities in a lot of ways. with MySQL. Okay. Questions? Any questions? I will be online, yes, for a while. I'm not going anywhere. So, yeah, I'll be online. If there's not any questions, I'll end the webinar. And then next week, like I said, um, I'll clean this a bit. What's the advantage of using Java as opposed to PHP? Why people talk so highly of Java? Java is really a very versatile language. It can do just about anything, really. Um, the reason people like it so much is it's not just a web language. PHP is strictly a web language. You can't use PHP to program cell phones. You can't use PHP to program Blu-ray devices. You can't use PHP to program your car. You can't use PHP to program a lot of things. Java was designed to be an embedded programming language that can be used anywhere. That's why people like it so much. It's not because it's the easiest way to do it. Even with base classes, web-based base classes, Java is about the same to programming as PHP. It's not easier. Right now, if you use raw Java, it's much more difficult. If you use some base classes, it's and the follow-up to this was, why do people hate it so much? The reason people hate it so much is because they look at raw Java and they look at PHP and they're like, it's so much easier to do in PHP. And they're right. Which is why I'm going to show you how Java, I'm showing you Java, raw Java. Um, and then next week I'm going to show you PHP, and you're going to see it's so much simpler. But then I'm going to change the Java to use a one single base class, a database base class, and then you'll see how much simpler Java and JSP get. So a lot of people saying they hate it is because Java, not only is it a higher level or lower level language that gives you a lot of flexibility, also makes it harder to use without base classes anyway. It's also a compiled language and a tightly typed language, which makes Java faster than scripted languages like PHP, but also makes it a little more difficult. In PHP, you don't have to, for example, you don't have to declare a variable in advance. You can just use it. And we'll see that next week. In Java, you have to declare it in advance. The advantage is that the scripting language like PHP is easier. The disadvantage is it's slower. It's an interpreted language. There's overhead to that simplicity. So that's why people hate Java. But then again, if you're used to, if you want to be programming anywhere outside of the web space, you're going to need something other than PHP, because PHP is strictly a web page language. It's a great language. I use it all the time. But I generally tend to prefer Java because I know it's a faster, more efficient language. And I also know that my skills that I use for Java web applications, if I need to write an application somewhere else on a mobile phone or something, they're all very easily translatable. The other question is, can you write a restriction on the type? Yes, you can. You can program it in with Java. And can you do a virus scan? You can, yeah. The nice thing about these file uploads and downloads, if you've got a series of byte streams that are going directly into a database, the virus isn't going to be is not going to impact you, particularly if you're running on a Linux web server. But it's not going to affect you anyway. But you can do a virus scan, and that's a good idea. I would do that, but I don't think you're going to have an issue with viruses by doing it this way. Other questions? Java is nice for non-desktop applications. There's a comment here. Java is nice for non-desktop applications. PHP is great and quick for writing dynamic web pages, but neither should be used to write Windows or Mac applications. So non-desktop applications, PHP. You know, that's true. I would, I would shy away from writing a desktop application for Windows or Mac in a native language, period.